Hi, this is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Welcome to That Was the Week That Was in South Carolina College Baseball for March 16th through the 22nd. Of course, the big news in college baseball in the Palmetto State this past week was Paul Mainieri leaving as head coach at the University of South Carolina. The Gamecocks had lost their last 6 games as he was coach. They were very poor against the better competition. They were actually 6-29 against SEC teams in his tenure. 6-24 in the regular season last year, 0-1 in the tournament, and they lost their first 4 games in the SEC this year, including a 22-6 rout at the hands of Arkansas on Friday night. If you've seen any film or video of the crowds at Founders Park in the last few games, it's just really, the attendance has just bottomed out. I don't know if there were 150 people there on Thursday's game, Wednesday's game against Charlotte, based on what I saw. And of course, they lost that game, giving up a 9-run 5th inning and committing a bunch of errors, 5 errors, I believe it was, and losing that game. And that kind of, between that and the poor performance on offense at Florida the weekend before, kind of got things to steamrolling and came to a head sometime after Friday night's game. And A.D. Jeremy Donati asked for Mainieri, or made a decision about Mainieri. Monty Lee, assistant coach, has stepped in as interim head coach for the rest of the season. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But how about some of the things that went on this past week? On Tuesday and Wednesday, Clemson played a couple of games down in Charleston, giving their fans down there a chance to see them play. They won the first game over College of Charleston by a score of 3-1 at Patriots Point. They had a record crowd of almost 1,700 people there. And then on Wednesday night, they had a crowd of over almost 5,300 at the Joe, and they beat the Citadel by a score of 9-3. So it was a good trip down to the Holy City for the Tigers. And I hope they got some seafood while they're down there. There's lots of good seafood places. Some other games that went on Tuesday, mentioned that Charlotte blew past South Carolina in really demoralizing fashion, if you will, 11-8. The Citadel had a 5-0 lead against Georgia down in Athens going into the bottom of the 7th and wound up losing on a 3-run walk-off home run. Tough loss for the Bulldogs. North Greenville and Lander played. The Trailblazers got a 14-4 win. That was a big non-conference game. Wingate was down 7-4 to Francis Marion in the late going. They wound up winning 21-9. Also, Winthrop started a 4-game road trip to California with a 9-2 win over Pacific on Tuesday, and Wofford got a nice 9-2 win over Presbyterian in a matchup of 2 state teams. On Wednesday, as I mentioned, Clemson got that win over the Citadel. Campbell and Coastal Carolina played a wacky game. There were 7 runs scored, only 1 scored as a result of a hit, 3 via walk, 4 via walk, 1 by a sacrifice fly, and 1 on hit batsman. Campbell wins that game in a walk-off fashion 4-3. North Greenville and North Georgia. This could be a preview of the Southeast region in the Division II playoffs. North Greenville scored 2 runs in the top of the 9th inning to win that game over the Nighthawks. Their coach for former South Carolina pitcher Nolan Belcher, 4-2 win. And USC Upstate got a nice win up at Charlotte, 11-10. On Thursday, Winthrop began a 3-game series at Sacramento, and they got shut out 13-0 by the Sacramento State Hornets. On Friday, I mentioned that Arkansas-South Carolina game, 22-6. The Razorbacks scored crooked runs in 6 of the 7 innings before the game was halted mercifully by the run rule. Of course, Arkansas is number 4 in the country. Up in South Bend, Indiana, Notre Dame shut out Clemson 4-0. The Fighting Irish were able to get enough runs off of Aiden Kanak in the opening game of that series in ACC play. One concern for the Tigers is the last 3 game 1s against major schools, they were shut out. Got shut out by South Carolina 3 weeks ago, got shut out by Georgia Tech last week, and were shut out by Notre Dame on Friday. And Aiden Kanak's not going to be winning many games if he can't get any run support. Another nice game on Friday was Coastal Carolina run ruling James Madison in the start of a 3-game Sun Belt Conference series. That had to be the first of 3 straight run rule wins for the Chanticleers in that series. How about on Saturday? As I mentioned, Monty Luke took over for South Carolina after Mainieri left, and the Gamecocks played much better on Saturday than they did on Sunday. Than did on Friday. They had a 2-1 lead going into the top of the ninth inning, and a throwing error allowed the tying run to score. They went to extra innings, and the Hogs won that game 3-2. But still, even though they lost, the Gamecocks put forth a better effort. One of the better efforts they put forth all year, even with the loss. Ant Phillips pitched really well in that game for the Gamecocks. Up in Greenville, Bob Jones won a couple of games against Payne to snap a 6-game losing streak. They got complete games from a couple of pitchers, Tillman Padgett and Mackenzie Ritter, so that was nice of them. Also, as I mentioned, Coastal run ruled James Madison 3 times. On Saturday it was only 10-0. Then Columbia International played Appalachian Athletic Conference rival Tennessee Wesleyan, who was ranked number 9 in NAIA national rankings this week. And the Rams won the middle game of the series, scoring 4 runs in the 8th to win that game, 12-8. Tennessee Wesleyan won the other 2 games. And up at South Bend again, Notre Dame beat Clemson 8-7, keeping Clemson frustrated. How about on Sunday? Well, on Sunday, South Carolina got off to a 5-0 lead against Arkansas and held on to win 9-4. There were some tight moments going on. Gamecocks got more offense than they'd had in a while. They got 4 home runs, 2 from Jake Randolph, the Presbyterian College transfer. He came in as a catcher. He's DH'd a couple of times and caught maybe once. This is his 3rd start of the season, but they started him in the outfield, and he did fine. And it certainly didn't affect his offense. He was had the 2 homers, singled, he walked, he scored 3 times, and he drove in 3 runs. Tyler Bach was also had 3 hits for the Gamecocks, including a home run, and Talmadge Leroy homered for Carolina. Got a little bit dicey at the end. Brandon Stone had pitched really well to open the game, 5 2/3 or 5 1/3 innings of 2 runs action, and then Carolina went to the bullpen. Logan Prisco got out of a jam, and they had a few more tight instances before Parker Marlatt got the last couple of outs to get the Gamecocks out of that and get their first SEC win of the season, as I mentioned. Just from looking, it seemed like the Gamecocks took a little bit different approach to batting since Monty has taken over. I think that ostensibly he was the hitting coach, but rumors behind the scenes and around the program were that Mainieri really was not letting Monty do a whole lot with that. I don't know, don't have any inside information. But I do know the Gamecocks took a little bit of a different approach the last 2 games of the series. They were a little bit more patient. They still struck out a bunch on Saturday. They tried to bunt a couple of times, not successfully, but just trying to do some different things. And, I think that that will bode well for the Gamecocks in the future. Of course, they've still got a long way to go to be considered remotely in contention for an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. Of course, they're only 1 in 5. They probably need to win about 12 to 13 of their next 24 games to have a decent shot at being considered. And that's not easy. Just about all the teams they're playing in the SEC are ranked this year. But again, I think the Gamecocks the Gamecocks administration pulled the trigger, and I think that's all the fans could ask. I've mentioned in my podcast this week that I didn't call for Mainieri to be fired. I think it was time for him to go, though. But I just don't think I don't think I've got the right to say somebody ought to be fired, just as a journalist. But I think it was the right time. I had followed. I was an LSU fan ever since listening to some of the nighttime radio games when Paul Dietzel was there back in the 1960s. And I sort of followed the Tigers baseball programs too. And I noticed that later in Mainieri's career, that over there before he retired, that they just really did some wacky things on the field. It was almost like the guy gets on base and they're going to run. It's like they're playing t-ball or something. The last guy was up at the plate. They run until somebody either scored or got out. But, I don't know what has transpired, but it appears that the game may have passed Paul Mainieri by. I know that some Gamecock fans are wondering about Terry Rooney as to whether, he's going to stay on as pitching coach. He caught some criticism last year in an article that John Whittle wrote for thebigspur.com. It was a kind of a rehash of some of the inside things going on. It did not portray a positive picture of what was going on around the USC baseball program. One thing, too, I think with Mainieri, they tried to get some immediate fixes by bringing in junior college guys or guys from other schools. And for the most part, it hasn't paid off for them. I think they need to make sure they go back and redouble their efforts to stay on good graces with the high school coaches in the state. I'm sure they are working hard to do that. I think Monty has a pretty good rapport with a lot of the high school coaches. It'll be interesting to see if some of the recruiting focus turns around in that. But again, it's early. Everyone may be overreacting after just 2 games. We'll see. The Gamecocks go out to play North Carolina this week in Charlotte on Tuesday. But anyway, that's that. Getting away from that, getting back to the Sunday games, I just stopped over there talking to Carolina about that. Coastal got this 3rd run rule win, 16-6 in 7 innings over James Madison. Rex Watson had 2 homers and drove in 7 runs. He's really been doing well for the Shants lately. He's got 7 homers on the season. I mentioned Notre Dame beat Clemson 9-4. The Tigers had 17 base runners and can only get 4 across. That's I'm sure that's a concern for the Tigers. They had some errors that have hurt them before, and I think they've really got to tighten up that defense if they want to be seriously considered to be a high seed in the NCAA tournament. They can do it one good weekend, and they're right back at it. The Citadel got a nice win on Sunday at Mercer, winning 3-2. The Bulldogs had some tough losses on the road at Florida State and at Kentucky, and also at Mercer in one of the early games. But still, they came back and won. Michael Gibson did a great job of pitching. He pitched into the 6th inning, I believe it was, and Lane Tobin had a couple of key hits, including the go-ahead or what turned out to be the winning RBI hit for the Bulldogs. Also, USC Beaufort snapped a 17-game losing streak in Peach Belt Conference play with a win over USC Aiken. That final score was 11-7. Excuse me, I had to look it up. I didn't have it written down. But that's kind of what was going on in the state this past week. How about the team of the week? I picked Florida Georgia Tech as team of the week. They won all 4 games they played last week. They are now 25-6 overall. They are scoring at a high pace. They're batting .343 of the team with 348 runs scored in 35 games. I think that's 358. I wrote it down. 358 runs scored in 35 games, 45 homers, and 168 stolen bases. They stole 13 bases in one game over the weekend against USC Union. One thing to look forward to for the Stingers, they're 1 game behind Gaston College in the Region 10 standings. Gaston College is also red hot. The Rhinos are hitting .368. They've scored 411 runs in, I believe it is, let's check, I think it's 34 games. So they're scoring more runs than FD Tech is. And they've hit 74 home runs for the season. And they also have scored 11 or more runs in 9 straight games. So it could be a real interesting series when they play down at Florence this next coming weekend. It's the beginning of the 2nd round of Region 10 play. The Rhinos won 2 of 3 against FD Tech in Sims Legion Park in Gastonia to start the region schedule. So it'll be interesting. Again, it should be a good series up there. How about my Palmetto State baseball team rankings? Well, I reversed the top 2 teams, or switched the top 2 teams among NCAA Division I. I moved Coastal Carolina up to the top after a 3-1 week. They're now 16-6 overall, won 3 straight games. They were number 2 last week in the state. I've got Clemson falling down to number 2. They got the 2 wins down in Charleston, but then they could not come up with anything in South Bend. They're now 1-5 in the ACC. I know that's a concern for them, and they've lost 3 straight. Winthrop coming off winning 3 out of 4 on the West Coast. I moved them, kept them at 3rd place. They're 17-7. From here on down, it's just kind of a roll of the dice. Going back and forth on several teams as to what they think they ought to do. Right now, I've got Charleston Southern in 4th place, moving up from 7th. They were 3-1 this past week. 16-7 overall. They got a nice couple of wins over Gardner-Webb. South Carolina, I moved them up one spot from 6th to 5th. I don't know if I put too much emphasis on the way they played the last two games of the Arkansas series versus the first game of the series and the Charlotte game earlier in the week. Which South Carolina team shows up for the rest of the year. If it's the one that played on Saturday and Sunday, they'll move up in the rankings. If it's one that played on Wednesday and Friday or Tuesday and Friday, they'll move down. I got Wofford moving up 2 spots from 8th to 6th after going 3-1 last week. They're 16-9 overall. Got a big 1, 2 out of 3 at Xavier over the weekend. USC Upstate went 2-2. They went 1-2 at Longwood, which is typically not one of the more powerful Big South Conference programs. The Spartans are now 12-13. I dropped them from 4th to 7th. The Citadel I dropped from 5th to 8th. They went 1-4. The tough loss to Georgia, the loss to Clemson, losing the 2 games to Mercer, and at 9-13, I just didn't feel like, even though they're playing pretty good ball, I didn't know that I could move them above anyone else. So they're in 8th place. At number 9 is College of Charleston, which went 1-3 last week. They're 10-13 overall, staying in 9th place. And number 10, I have Presbyterian. They were 0-4 last week. They got 2 wins to snap a 17-game losing streak last weekend, but they've now started a 4-game losing streak and got swept on the road at High Point in Big South Conference play. NCAA Division II, there's not much change there either. North Greenville stayed number 1. They were 5-0 last week. They're now 25-6. The Trailblazers have won 6 straight games, and I know that some Carolina fans and some Bruins Trailblazers fans are wondering, say, are they going to give Landon Powell a call? Gamecock legend. We'll just have to see what goes on later on. Staying at number 2, Francis Marion. They were 3-1. They had some really big offensive numbers over the weekend as they swept Emmanuel. They are, they're 24-6, stay second place. USC Aiken, 3-1 last week. They did lose to USC Aiken on Sunday, but they're 21-9, stayed in 3rd. Landers stayed in 4th, even though the Bearcats went 0-4 last week. They're now 16-14. Kept them in 4th because Newberry, which was in 5th last week, went 1-3, and I couldn't move them up over Lander over just that. They went 1-2 against Lincoln Memorial. Lincoln Memorial, that's right. The Wolves are now 18-12. Anderson, I had staying at 17-13 after a 2-2 week. Staying at 6th. Benedict, I moved up 1 spot over Erskine. I've got the Tigers now at 7th place. They were 12-8 now. Won 2 of 3 at Lamont and Owen. 8th place, we've got Erskine. They dropped down 1 spot. They went 2-2 last week. They're now 13-19. Coker stayed in 9th. They went 0-3 last week, swept by a good Lenore Ryan team. No shame in getting swept. They're 7-21. Southern Wesleyan is 9-22. There, I kept them in 10th place. They got swept by North Greenville after losing to Anderson midweek. USC Beaufort got a win over Embry-Riddle over in the early part of the week to snap a long losing streak, and they got that win over USC Aiken to have a 2-3 week. But still, they're 6-23 overall. I couldn't see moving them up over anyone. They stayed in 11th place. And Claflin, which lost 3 straight to Georgia Southwestern, stayed in 12th place. They're 3-20. They've lost their last 18 games. And the Panthers are just looking to try to find something positive to happen in the Peach Belt Conference. Among the NAIA and National Christian College Athletic Association schools, Spartanburg Methodist had a 3-1 week, including a sweep of Bluefield. Nice win for them. The Pioneers are now 16-13. Stayed in number 1. Columbia International stayed number 2. They went 1-2 against Tennessee Wesleyan. Good overall outing for them, especially getting that win. Bob Jones, as mentioned earlier, snapped a 6-game losing streak. They got a couple of wins over Payne, and they're now 7-13. I kept them in 3rd place. Voorhees won 2 out of 3 over Oakwood and improved to 4-16 on the season. I kept them at 4th in this division. And Morris went 1-1. They split a pair with Johnson and Wales out of Charlotte. Won the first game 8-7. Lost the second game 9-8. The Hornets stayed in 5th place in that. And among junior colleges, Florence Darlington Tech is an easy choice to stay number 1. They've won 5 straight games. They're 29-6 overall. I kept USC Sumter at second. They're 4-1 overall. 4-1 last week. 21-10 with a record. USC Union won a couple of games before they got swept by FD Tech. They're now 17-14. Stayed in it. They moved up one spot from 4th to 3rd. I switched them and USC Lancaster. The Bruins suffered 3 lopsided losses to Gaston College and fell to 17-15 and 1-3 in the this past week. I got them in 4th place. USC Salkehatchie, which is now 3-30, they've lost 16 straight games. I've left them at number 5. And Denmark Tech, which did not play last week, remained at number 6. How about the schedule coming up for this coming week? Only game going on Monday is a JV game, and I always have this posted at PalmettoStateBaseball.com, by the way. Some of the games going on Tuesday, we've got Voorhees at Morris for a doubleheader at 2. We've got Spartanburg Methodist at that same ranked Tennessee Wesleyan team at 3 o'clock. I do not believe this counts in the region because our conference is a midweek game. Southern Wesleyan goes over to Anderson for a 4 o'clock game. We have Davidson visiting Winthrop. Winthrop comes back home after that nice California road trip. Francis Marion and Catawba are playing in Kannapolis at a 6 o'clock game. Georgia Southern is at Charleston Southern. Georgia Southern's really been struggling this year. North Greenville goes down to play Newberry on Tuesday. USC Upstate goes up to play Tennessee. The Vols are 22nd this week in the D1 baseball poll. And as I mentioned, South Carolina is at North Carolina at Truist Field. The game starts at 6:30 in Uptown Charlotte. And a big game in Clemson. Coastal Carolina comes up to play the Tigers. 7 o'clock game at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. The 1 and 2 teams in the Palmetto State baseball rankings, and they're both nationally ranked this week, although Clemson may drop out or drop further because of their series loss to Notre Dame. How about on Wednesday? We've got Presbyterian playing at the Citadel at 4 o'clock. We've got USC Aiken and Augusta playing in North Augusta at SRP Park at 6:35. On Thursday, Clemson opens its second ACC home series. They're going to be a Thursday-Saturday series again this time. They're at home against Miami, 7 o'clock on Thursday. The only other action on Thursday, according to the schedules I have, Bob Jones is at Morris for a doubleheader at 1 o'clock. On Friday, series openers. Among them we have Erskine's at Shawan, UNC Asheville is at USC Upstate, North Greenville is at Ferrum, Catawba's at Coker. Catawba's really doing well this year. Charleston Southern at Winthrop in a big South Conference matchup. Claflin's at USC Aiken, still trying to get some magic. Coastal Carolina's at Marshall. The Thundering Herd, I think, hit in double figures, I think, all 3 games against Georgia Southern. They scored somewhere around 40 or 45 runs. I'd have to look to make sure of that. College of Charleston's at Campbell in the CAA series. Georgia Southwestern's at Lander. Mount Olive's at Francis Marion. PC is at Sanford. South Carolina opens an SEC series over at Foley Field against Georgia. And Western Carolina's at the Citadel. And again on Friday, that Miami-Clemson series continues. How about games on Saturday? Some of the doubleheaders going on in the Region 10. A big showdown series, as I mentioned earlier. Gaston College is at Florence Georgia Tech. 1 o'clock game at Daly Field. The Rhinos are 13-2 in Region 10. The Stingers are 12-3. The difference being, when the teams met head-to-head earlier in the year, Gaston College won 2 out of 3 up at Gastonia. Also this weekend, USC Lancaster's at USC Salkehatchie, and USC Sumter is at USC Union. UNC Greensboro is at Wofford, by the way, in Southern Conference action. And if I did not mention it, the Citadel is at home against Western Carolina for a series. Morehouse has a road series at Benedict this week, and I'm trying to see if I see a Denmark Tech game on the schedule. I don't right now. I will double check about that. Well, how about the standings for the various teams in the various conferences? In the ACC, Clemson is 1-5, and they are tied for 15th place with Stanford. Florida State's got a 5-1 record in the lead. North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, Boston College are all 6-3 in that. In the SEC, South Carolina and Missouri are tied for 15th, or last place, with 1-5 records. First place tie between Texas, Mississippi State, Auburn, Kentucky, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And they're 1, 2, 3, 4 more teams at 3-3. Pretty good matchup, a pretty good logjam up there in the SEC. Should be another great year. How about in the Big South? Winthrop has only played one series, and they're on top with a 3-0 series mark. High Point is at 4-2. Charleston Southern is at 2-1. They're in third place. On down we have USC Upstate tied for fourth at 3-3. PC is in seventh at 2-4. In the Sun Belt Conference, Coastal Carolina is the only unbeaten in the conference play. They're 6-0, followed by Marshall at 5-1. Then you got Louisiana Monroe at 4-2, and 6 teams tied for fourth place, at 3-3. In the Coastal Athletic Association, College of Charleston is 5-4. They are 3 games behind Campbell in the South Division. The Camels are 8-1. In between them is UNCW, which is 5-1. It suffered its first loss of the season in conference play to the Cougars on Sunday. In the Northern Division, Elon surprised Northeastern earlier this weekend, but the Huskies won 2 out of 3. They're now 7-2, tied for first place in the North Division with Monmouth. In the Southern Conference, East Tennessee State, Mercer, Western Carolina are all tied at 2-1. Sanford, the Citadel, Greensboro are tied at 1-2, and VMI and Walford have yet to begin conference play. Moving on to other conferences, let's take a look at the Appalachian Athletic Conference in NAIA. Johnson, out of Tennessee, which is coached by former Tennessee coach Dave Serrano, leads the conference with a 12-2 record. Second place is Tennessee Wesleyan at 12-3. They're a half game back. Then you got Milligan at 14-4, Montreat at 9-3. Spartanburg Methodist is at 9-6 in fifth place, and in sixth place is Columbia International at 9-8. In the HBCU Athletic Conference, Voorhees is in fifth place in the East Division with a 3-7 record. Talladega, which won 3 straight over Voorhees last weekend, is in first place in that division at 8-0. Stillman is in second place at 7-3. In the West Division of the HBCUAC, Wiley of Texas is 8-4, followed by Huston-Tillotson at 7-5. In the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, Spring Hill has a 14-4 record, and they are 1 game up on Albany State. Benedict is 10-8 in the conference, which would put them at 4 games back. Between them and the top 2 teams are at Morehouse at 11-6 and Edward Waters at 11-7. In Conference Carolinas, Young Harris has a 1-game lead over Francis Marion. The Mountain Lions are 16-2. Francis Marion is 15-3 in second place. North Greenville is in third place at 14-4. Belmont Abbey's at 16-5. Then you got Erskine at 9-9 in the conference. They are in sixth place. And Southern Wesleyan is at 4-14. Looks like they're in 2, 4, 6, 8. In 12th place for the Warriors. In the Peach Belt Conference, North Georgia has a lead over Columbus State. The Nighthawks are 16-2 in the conference. Columbus State is 11-4, which ties in with Georgia Southwestern at 11-4. USC Aiken is in fourth place at 10-5. Lander is in sixth place at 10-8. USC Buford is in 10th place, I believe, 2, 4, 6, 8. 10th place at 1-17, and Claflin is at 0-15 and in 11th place. In the South Atlantic Conference, Catawba is in first place at 15-3. Lenore Ryan is next at 13-5. Then a half game behind them are Wingate and Newberry at 13-5. Anderson is 5-13. They're unbeaten outside of the conference, but they're having struggles in the conference. Coker is 6-12 in the conference. Excuse me. The Cobras are in 8th place. The Trojans are in a tie for 9th with Tusculum and Emory and Henry. In Junior College Region 10, as I mentioned, Gaston College is 13-2. Forest Orange Tech is 12-3. USC Sumter is in 3rd place at 9-5. USC Lancaster and USC Union are tied for 4th at 4-10. And USC Salkehatchie is 1-13. Well, how about the Palmetto Pulse of who's hot and who's not going on this week? Let's take a look at that and call it up right now. Coastal Carolina's hot. Won 3 straight games by run rules. I think they got a positive vibe going on, positive pulse. Clemson, I'm sure they do not feel well after the way they played at Notre Dame. Too many errors, not enough key hits. Pitching was so-so. Nothing to really brag about. Not as good as I'm sure they thought. But the Tiger, I think they're negative vibes, wanting to get something better going with this game against Coastal midweek, and then Miami coming in later. Winthrop, I think their pulse is good. 3-1, nice road trip, 2 wins to close it out at Sacramento State. They just playing well right now. Charleston Southern, same thing. They won 2 out of 3 against Gardner-Webb. The last one was by a run rule. Feeling pretty good. They've won 1 game, but still a 3-1 week last week. South Carolina, first results after the coaching change seems to be pretty good. We'll just have to see where it goes from there. They got the midweek game against the Tar Heels and then the trip down to Georgia, which is a top 10 team. It will not be easy. They're going to have to get better pitching, better defense, and more timely hitting. Wofford, I think they got positive vibes right now. They're 3-1 last week, 16-9 overall. Good win for them. USC Upstate, they fell behind big on Sunday and came back within a run before they fell short of getting a win in that series. But still, I think overall they feel decent about the way they've played. Probably still feel like they could do a little bit better. Citadel has a pretty good feeling about the last game of that series at Mercer. Michael Gibson's been doing it both on the mound and at the plate for the Bulldogs. It's been good for Coach Russell Triplett's squad. Be interesting to see what goes on from here. They just need to get a little bit better pitching on down the lineup or on down through the bullpen to keep the other teams at bay. The College of Charleston, they did get that win on Sunday. I think they played Clemson well in midweek, and they just went up against a good UNCW team. So I think if they keep their focus and the fact that, hey, we played a team that had not lost a conference game yet and we beat them, they can feel okay about that. PC, I think they're feeling down right now. 4 games after that, it seemed like they turned a little bit of a corner last weekend. Among Division II, North Greenville still hot. 6 straight wins. I think they're doing what I know they probably expected to be atop the standings right now, but they're not. But I think they're still feeling fine about where they are. Been getting plenty of good hitting. Pitching's been good enough. Francis Marion, they've just been knocking the cover off the ball the last few games. I think they've got a positive outlook. USC Aiken, I think things were spinning along nicely for them until they lost that game to USC Beaufort. Hey, it happens in baseball. The good teams are going to lose to teams that haven't been playing as well on occasion. That's what makes baseball great. It's not like you're watching the Globetrotters and the Washington Generals play. Either team can win, and it happened for USC Beaufort on Sunday. Newberry, I think they're frustrated with their losses. They got the bases loaded against Lincoln Memorial on Friday night and could not get the tying run in, and they wound up losing the series by 1 game. Anderson, they got pummeled by Emory Henry on Saturday after winning the series opener. I'm sure they're a little bit down after that, but they still got a winning record. So I think they're positioned where they can make a move if they so do it. Benedict, 12-8, nice road win for them. They seem to hit the ball really well. I think their pitching is sometimes at least something to be desired. But hey, they're 12-8. If you got a winning record, you got to feel pretty good about that. Pardon me if I have to take a drink. It's Diet Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper Zero, excuse me. Erskine, 2-2, 13-19. They, I think they're still trying to just turn the corner. They just can't seem to get a whole lot of consistency to put together a winning streak. Coker, they had 1 close game against Lenore Ryan over the weekend, and then lost the others. Weren't quite as close as after having such a good season last year. They just haven't been able to get much going on. I think the vibes are not too positive there, and I don't mean in negativity, but just the fact that not many good things are happening for them. Southern Western, pretty much the same thing. They're struggling again this year, 9-22 overall. I think that they're really wanting something good to happen, of course. USC Beaufort got 2 wins last week. They only had 4 going into the week, so I think there's a little bit more pep in the step down there in Hardyville, and just see if they can see what's going to be coming on after this. Claflin, again, gave up 50 runs in the doubleheader against Georgia Southwestern on Saturday. They're trying to get Peach Belt Conference level talent, and it's really been a struggle for them so far. In junior colleges, NAI and National Christian College Athletic Association, Spartanburg Methodist, 3 in 1 week, conference sweep. I think they're feeling well. They're 9-6 in the conference, got a win record overall. Columbia International, liked that win over Tennessee Wesleyan. Their vibes are probably so-so. They probably feel like they could have won another game in that series. Bob Jones, I think, positive. They keep getting games canceled for whatever reason. Things going on. They had a midweek game canceled, and then they were supposed to play Payne on Friday night, and they canceled that. I don't know what the deal was. It wasn't the weather, but for whatever reason, I tell you, it's in baseball. If you don't play but a couple of games of the week and they're both on the same day, it's hard to build a whole lot of consistency. But they did get good pitching. I'm sure that's something that Coach Kyle Morrison likes and wants to build on. Morris, again, they got a win. 2 close games. I think, they look to make a play here or get an out there, and then they're feeling pretty good about themselves. Junior colleges, Florence Darlington Tech, 5 straight wins. They're sitting pretty right now, in position to take over first place if they can do well against Gaston College over the weekend. USC Sumter, I think they're feeling good. They're 21-10 overall. Ryan Pikatoski, pardon me if I don't pronounce it right, he hit 5 home runs in the doubleheader in the series over the weekend against USC Salkehatchie. I believe he is a USC commitment, and he's really knocking the cover off the ball. The Firehands have won 4 straight. USC Union at 3rd place. I think they're so-so. They weren't real competitive in a couple of the games against FD Tech, but again, FD Tech's pretty good. The Stingers have still got a winning record overall. Bantams. USC Lancaster, they got run ruled 3 times against Gaston College. Gaston is a good team. Lancaster did get a midweek win, and they're still over 500, so they can have something to look forward to there. USC Salkehatchie, 16 straight losses. Jeremy Joyce, really having to fight it. The Salkehatchie program has typically struggled for most of the last decade, and it's hard to build something down there that they can get some positives on. But I'm sure they just want to get some wins and finish with a little bit better record than they had last year. Denmark Tech had a couple of games canceled this week. Haven't played in a while. You'll be interested to see how rusty they are. Before I log off, I think I'll talk a little bit about the South Carolina coaching situation. UFC fans, I think a lot of them, they do not want anyone from the current staff to be retained. Be interesting to see what Monty Lee can do the rest of the season. He's got now 31 games left plus the SEC tournament, and see what he can do to make a case that he be hired. There was some talk on the internet tonight. I think it was Phil Kornblut or someone at SC Sports Talk who said that he could be the first coach to have a win at 3 different Division I schools in the state. He got wins at College of Charleston, when he's head coach there, and at Clemson, and now at South Carolina, and the interim basis. I did a little bit of research, didn't get as much of a chance to look as I would like because I needed to do my regular stuff. I do know that Mike McGuire, who's now at Winthrop, has coached at 3 different schools. He was at Lander, then he wound up at USC Upstate, and now at Winthrop. And also one from the way back rack. This is one guy I was thinking might be the case. There didn't seem to be quite as much, not hiring coaches from other schools back in the day. Billy Laval coached baseball at 4 different schools. He was also a basketball and football coach. But he coached at Erskine, Newberry, South Carolina, and Furman. So he coached at 4 different schools. I know Tim Medlin coached at USC Sumter and Newberry. We got Brett Harker, who coached at Furman and Limestone. We got Chad Holbrook, who coached at South Carolina and College of Charleston. And Jackie Powers, who coached at Furman and at USC. Jackie Powers preceded Bobby Richardson at Columbia. There may be more. I'd have to check that sometime to see. But again, looking for other candidates. Some of the wish list, if you will, say Kevin Schnall at Coastal Carolina. Is USC any better of a job than Coastal right now at this moment? I don't know. Historically, yes, but what Gary Gilmore did over there to get such a good program going, and Kevin Schnall's got it going still. Just it could come down to whether there's the ego of wanting to compete in the quote SEC unquote. Sun Belt's a pretty good league too. May not be quite as deep, but there's some teams that'll beat you if you're not paying attention. How about other folks? Landon Powell's name has been mentioned. Would USC fans go for him coming from a Division II school? He's won a national championship in Division II. He wins consistently. He's always up near the top of the Conference of Carolina standings. But would they feel like he is winning on a lower level, if you will, with D1 players? He has been able to attract a lot of guys who started out at a Division I school and for whatever reason did not quite make it and wound up at Tigerville and playing very well. But he's also recruited some great guys that did not start at a D1 school. So I think he can recruit. It'll be a matter of whether the powers that be see and think that he can take that next step up. Just have to wonder about that. Other names I've seen and heard: Kirk Sarloos at TCU. At one time, this is even before Mainieri went down, I heard about Nick Mingione at Kentucky. I don't know anything about that. People with USC connections. Justin Parker, the pitching coach at Mississippi State, he was at USC for a while. Skylar Meade, who is at Troy, was at USC for a while. Mark Calvey, who is at South Alabama, was at USC for a while. You got Chris Lemonis, who coached Mississippi State to a national championship in, 22, 23, somewhere around there. And then they had a tough start the next year, and they canned him. So who knows? Dan McDonald from the Citadel also. Lemonis played at the Citadel. Dan McDonald played at the Citadel. He's at Louisville. I don't know. Just names to throw out. I'm sure that there are going to be other folks. Some folks are going to be scouring, looking for maybe the top assistant at one of the top schools. I don't know what the situation was assistants to say LSU or Texas or things like that. But I'm sure there'll be a lot of speculation that USC will go after some of those guys. Do they, after two straight struggling hires or hires that did not pan out, can they take a chance on going on an assistant coach? Now, some folks will say, well, Chad Holbrook also didn't pan out, and that's true in a sense. But he had some pretty good teams, and for whatever reason, he just was not able to get over the hump. And at some point, Carolina decided to cut their losses with him. He landed on his feet at College Charleston. He's had some good competitive teams down there. Of course, there was Mark Kingston after that. Kingston was a bit of a outsider, I guess, to say. I talked to one coach in the college ranks, and he said that he happened to be in an event where Coach Kingston was there, and he had this was like a scouting type day or watching kids practice or play, and Coach Kingston had very, very little interaction with the other coaches who were there. I think it's important that you keep a good relationship with coaches in your state and go from there. Did he lose his job because of that? I don't think so. He just could not get over the hump. It was, pretty good season, then a bad season, so-so season, then a not good season. He just didn't have the consistency Carolina wanted. But again, that's it. You have to wonder what Carolina's going to do, how they're going to go, whether they want to go established, up-and-comer, or assistant, and we'll find that out probably not until the end of the season. But anyway, I know I've rambled on this time. Thank you for paying attention if you're still there. Again, you can always follow coverage of college baseball in the state of South Carolina at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. I provide updates on X under the handle of Palmetto Base. I've got a podcast. You can find a link to that at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. And I I'm not doing this to make money. I just want to do it to promote the game of college baseball in South Carolina. I watched almost none of the NCAA tournaments games, basketball tournament games, because I've been keeping up with what's going on in baseball. You may say I'm an idiot, and I might be, but I just love the game of college baseball, even though I have no ability to play baseball with any degree of aptitude. Even when I was young, I did not. But anyway, this is Rudy Jones of Palmetto State Baseball saying thanks for listening. Good night, and Jesus loves you.